about leaving the room without that clicker in your hand. If you must leave, pause the tape. Trust me, when Del Reeves starts with The Only Girl I Can't Forget and Jimmy Dickens follows with Life's Turned Her That Way, then Jeannie Seeley sings Can I Sleep in Your Arms Tonight, Mister? Well, by then you can't leave, because Jan Howard steps in with Rock Me Back to Little Rock. Well, I could go on and on about Billy Walker, Leroy Van Dyke, Margot Smith, Bill Anderson, Johnny Russell, Melba Montgomery, and Jimmy Dean, or I could go out in the hall, down to the makeup room, come back by the coffee room, and drag all those great folk back into the room for more of the Country's Family Reunion #2, Volume 3. So if we could get Glenn on the fiddle to point the way with his bow, away we go.
Del Reeves, how about a song out of you?
Hey, let me sing you some country.
Sing us some. You gonna sing it as yourself or as everybody else?
No, I got a band over here.
I mean, you do impersonations. You usually do Jimmy and me and Johnny Cash. I thought maybe you was gonna do some of those.
Well, I'm not going to do any of them today. I really want to do real country actually this thing came out in 1961. That's when I moved to this town after Colin had concrete. And say, you better get here now because they're talking about you. It's called The Only Girl I Can't Forget. Boy, this is country. Well, yeah, boys. Oh, I saw her yesterday for just a little while, and it nearly broke my heart to see her smile. But I acted as though we had just met, but she's still the only girl I can't forget. Oh, she's just another girl, that's all she'll ever be. I've convinced everyone but me, and I've mastered my emotions now. Oh, but yet she's still the only girl I can't forget. Sean, do it. No, she doesn't mean a thing, oh, to me, but she's just part of the best part of me. She belongs to someone else, oh, but yet she's still the only girl I can't forget. Oh, she's just another girl, that's all she'll ever be. I've convinced everyone but me, and I've mastered my emotions now. Oh, but yet she's still the only girl I can't forget. Yes, she's still the only girl I can't forget. Son, if that ain't country, I'm comedy.
Do you think we're ever going to hear that kind of country music on the radio again?
You know, I hope we do, but I'm kind of like George Jones. I'm beginning to wonder. I really am.
All I can say is they're missing the best in the world when they don't listen to them kind.
Yeah.
After hearing Dale do that, I've got a request, Mr. Anderson.
Yes, sir.
I don't think we can leave here today without me getting my fix. I want to hear Jimmy Dickens sing a country ballad.
Oh, yeah. There's nobody sings a country ballad any better than little Jimmy Dickens. I'll guarantee you that.
I'm not ready for it.
You're not ready for it? Sure, you're always ready for it. Absolutely. Somebody hand him a mic, or Box, you gonna...
Let's go. Let me get myself together, y'all. Pop the one on me there. All right, Miss Seeley. Can I? Thank you, ma'am.
Get that, I can be your road.
You're precious. Thank you, ma'am. If she seems cold and bitter, I beg of you, just stop and consider all she's gone through. Don't be quick to condemn her for things she might say. Just remember, life turned her that way. She's been walked on and stepped on so many times. I hate to admit it, but that last footprint's mine. She was crying when I met her. She cries harder today. So don't blame her, life turned her that way. She's been walked on and stepped on so many times. I hate to admit it, but that last footprint's mine. She was crying when I met her. She cries harder today. So don't blame her, life turned her that way. No, don't blame her, life turned her that way.
Oh, it don't get no better. That is terrific.
Yeah.
I want Jeannie Seeley. You played microphone stand. It's your turn to sing. Talk about soulful singing.
Yeah.
I want Bill Anderson. I want to hear you sing too.
You're kind. Thank you. She's first. Put some soul on us, Seeley.
Ah, you would make me follow Jimmy Dickens. What an unkind thing to do. I don't know, hit me a key there. What'd we do? Can I sleep in? Can I sleep in your arms tonight, mister? It's so cold lying here all alone, and I have no home to hold on you, and I assure you I'll do you no wrong. Don't know why, but the one I love left me lonely and cold and so weak, and I need someone's arms to hold me till I strong enough to get back on my feet. Can I sleep in your arms tonight, mister? It's so cold lying here all alone, and I have no home to hold on to. I assure you I'll do you no wrong. Can I sleep in your arms tonight,
The original title of that was the old song about Can I Sleep in Your Barn? Wasn't that the original title?
Can I sleep in your barn tonight?
Well, you can sleep in my barn or my arms.
You saying you can sleep in their barn, their arms, or whatever?
That was one of the first songs that I learned to sing when I was a little girl, the Prisoner song and Can I Sleep in Your Barn? I was about 5 or whatever, and I always loved that melody. And Tex Ritter told me some stories about that melody. A couple of them I can tell you. One of them, he said, then it was brought from England, and then as people moved west, settling the west, they carried the melody out there as, from this valley they say you are going. Yeah.
It's one of those melodies like Thinking Tonight of My Blue Eyes, Wild Side of Life thing.
I was going to call you the other day and see if you wanted to get together and we'd write it again.
Sure.
Let's write a new song.
New words to an old melody. Pass the microphone over there. Jan, you haven't sung one today. We're getting a singing mood here with everybody.
All right. But after those two great ballads, I mean, I love ballads. I love ballads.
We're going to
But I
boogie
guess
now,
I won't.
though.
Okay. All right. All right, kick off Rock Me Back to Widow Walk. Key of E flat, I think. I usually do it in E, but today I'd flatten it if it was in E. You want to kick it off, Mr. Caps? I may have to stand up. Well, I was young when I left you and Daddy. Well, there was a world outside I had to see. Mama, I sure been a lot of places, but a Little Rock still looks the best to me. Rock me back to Little Rock, Mama, rock me. Let me be there in my dreams of fire, where the men don't try to take advantage of every woman who smiles. Sing me a little rockabye, baby, just the way you used to do. Mama, this old world outside has hurt me, so rock me back to Little Rock with you. Turn around. Oh, drop that high. Well, I couldn't wait to get away from Little Rock, for I thought Little Rock was a little square. But if I ever save enough money, I'll swing it right on back and settle there. Rock me back to Little Rock, Mama, rock me. Let me be there in my dreams a while, where the men don't try to take advantage of every woman who smiles. Sing me a little rockabye, baby, just the way you used to do. Mama, this old world outside has hurt me, so rock me back, then I'll rock with you. Da-da-da-da-da-da. You know, it's funny, but I was just thinking about it while I was singing there. I don't know why, but 3 songs I've recorded has Little Rock in it. Bad Seed, and this one, and another one. I can't remember which one it was. I have Little Rock in it. I lived there one time.
There's been 3 or 4 hit songs about Little Rock. Colin Ray had a Little Rock. Reba McEntire had a totally different Little Rock song.
Yeah.
Furlan had one called Little Rock?
They got a lot of publicity. I don't know if they did. Yeah, right.
Well, Jim Ed Brown's from Arkansas. You can tell us why.
That's right.
Somebody's going to have to write one about Big Rock one of these days.
Billy Walker, you're next. We're just kind of going down the line over here.
Why don't I do a little gospel song? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What are you going to do?
You wanna hand me the stand, or you wanna? Because if you try to hold this all the time, I'm liable to, go off and leave you. Well, went off and leave you singing. Yeah, it's an up-tempo gospel.
That's set up for little Jim Ray.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, I'm not singing anything in the book. What I'd like to do is sing a little song here that we've been singing out on the Opry for the last couple of years, and we're just going to kind of vamp this off, gang. Key of E. You ready? Now on the chorus, everybody sing. When you're lost and undone in this world full of sin, and you can't find any peace in your soul within, and the troubles and the heartaches seem to come without end. Just when you think that there's no way out, Jesus walks in. Everybody sing. Jesus walks in. Oh, Jesus walks in. And he breaks the chains of darkness, and he lets the light come in. And gone are your burdens, and life is free again. Well, just when you think that there's no way out, Jesus walks in. When you think you're in a corner and you can't see out from within, and everything is going wrong, and you can't seem to find a friend, and you think old Satan's got you, and it looks like this time he's gonna win. Well, just when you think that there's no way out, Jesus walks in. Jesus walks in, that's the way. Oh, Jesus walks in. And he breaks the chains of darkness, and he lets the light come in. And gone are your burdens, and life is free again. Well, just when you think that there's no way out, Jesus walks in. Come on, band. Oh, Jesus walks in. Oh, Jesus walks in. And he breaks the chains of darkness, and he lets the light come in. And gone are your burdens, and life is free again. Oh, just when you think that there's no way out, Jesus walks in. Little tag now. Just when you think that there's no way out, Jesus walks in. Yeah, and that's the truth.
You had a lot of help behind you. You couldn't see what they were doing.
I'll tell you
They
what,
were kneeling down.
We had more women on that song than you can shake a stick at.
Where'd that
And
song
man,
come
oh,
from?
I didn't know how many of these people knew this in this room.
Where'd that song come from, Billy? Is that a new song?
Well, it's a couple of years old that we recorded, and young man over in East Tennessee wrote it and brought it to me, and I just liked it and started singing it and recorded it, and it got on a lot of country gospel charts.
Yeah.
In fact, we were a #1 there for a little while on the thing. Yeah.
That's great. Leroy, did I see where you put down you were going to do a recitation? I might do that. Get out of here. That's my act.
I have been known to whisper in my life. You know this, dun, dun, dun. Go ahead, do that, and I'll catch up with you. It was battered and scarred. The auctioneer thought it was scarcely worth his while to waste much time on the old violin, but he held it up with a smile. "Want 'em a bid, good folks," he cried. "Who'll start the bidding for me? A dollar, who'll make it $2, $2 who'll make it $3, $3 once, $3 twice, $3 going for 3. But no. From far back in the room, a gray-haired man came forward and picked up the bow. Then wiping the dust from the old violin and tightening up all the loose strings, he played a melody pure and sweet as an angel sings. As the music played, the auctioneer, with a voice that was quiet and low, said, "Now, want 'em a bid for the old violin?" Then he held it up with a bow. $1,000, who'll make it 2, 2,000, who'll make it 3, 3,000 once, 3,000 twice. Going, said he. Well, the people all cheered, but some of them cried, "We don't understand. What changed its worth?" The man smiled and replied, "The touch of the master's hand." You know, many a man with life out of tune, battered, torn with sin, is auctioned cheap to a thoughtless crowd, much like the old violin. A bowl of porridge, a glass of wine, a game, and he travels on. He's going once, going twice, going and almost gone. And then the master comes, and the foolish crowd can never quite understand the worth of a soul and the change that's wrought by the touch of the master's hand.
That's beautiful. We should thank Glenn Duncan on the violin or the fiddle over there for a great job, too.
Hey, Bill, that's a sermon in itself, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Leroy.
It really is. Yeah, that's an old poem. That's, it's in a lot of poetry books. A lot of people have recorded that. Tex Ritter used to do that song. Yeah.
Ralph Emery recorded it.
Ralph recorded it. Yeah, he did. I
Red Foley
recorded
had
it,
a
too.
wonderful version of it.
We haven't talked about Red Foley today. You worked with him at the Ozark Jubilee. Leroy worked with him. Bobby Lord worked with him. What'd you learn from Red Foley?
Red Foley was one of the great performers of our time, and I learned probably more from Red Foley than anybody else about stage presence and about how to entertain people. He looked clumsy at times, and he stammered a little bit at times, but when he was on the stage, he was in total command of the audience and of what was going on. He never lost his grip on the people out there, and that's a real talent, as we all know. He was one of the people who got across the footlights, you know, and he was at his best when he sang his hymns.
But Bobby, you know, sometimes he could really get the crowd going with songs like Chattanooga Shoeshine Boy, Tennessee Saturday Night, and they'd be standing up on their feet, just rocking back and forth, and then he'd have them sit down the next song, and he'd have them in tears.
Right.
And that was, and as Bobby was saying, I suppose I learned more from Red Foley than anybody ever worked for. And he would come to me at times and tell me what I was doing. But he did it in such a tender way that I learned from him. Instead of being taken aback by what he said, I learned from how he was teaching me.
The other
be a
thing he
showman.
taught us was to be very frugal because he was probably the cheapest man I've ever.
Hey, Bobby, he was
No,
one.
wait! I have to tell you a story. Now,
I
this
got
is
one after that.
we were sitting. He was sitting having breakfast now in a restaurant, and we were going on the road. I had already had breakfast at home because I didn't have any money, and Red was having breakfast down at this little diner, and Grady Martin and the boys were out there and getting the cars all packed and everything. I came in, sat down, and Red said, have a cup of coffee with me. So I had a cup of coffee with him. We sat and we talked about what we were going to do and how we were going to travel today and one thing and another. And I said, Red, I better go out and get my stuff in the car. And he said, hold on a second, you didn't pay for your coffee. At that time, coffee was 5 cents. True story.
Bill, I want to tell a story about Red that I've never told in public before. I thought about whether I should tell this or not, but I think it's all right. Way back in the early days, I wrote and produced the shows that admitted the people into the Country Music Hall of Fame. And I wrote the inscriptions on about 3/4 of the plaques that are in the Country Music Hall of Fame. At that time, there were only about 3 people on earth who knew who the inductee was going to be that year. And the guy that made up the plaque that would have to go in there, one of the members of the board and me, because I had to write the introductions and the shows. I'll never forget the year that Red Foley went into the Hall of Fame. He was in very bad shape. He was very, very sick and was in a hospital out in Madison. And I went out to see him, and my heart was broken because he would sit there and say, Joe, nobody remembers me anymore. They don't know who I am, and the whole business has forgotten me. And he was really in bad shape. So I went to Joe Walker, and I said, I want you to do me a favor. I want to break the code of silence one time, and I want to tell Owen Bradley that Red is going into the Hall of Fame this coming weekend, because I want Owen to go out there and get him a tuxedo and get him all straightened up and have him there. I think it'll do him a world of good when he finds out that he's been voted into the Hall of Fame. So they had a quick emergency meeting of the executive committee, and they allowed me to go to Owen. And he went out and got Red and took him to his house. And the night of the thing, he had on a new tuxedo. He felt great. Excuse me. And I was pleased to have done that. Thank you.
Red Foley was one of the very few people in the history of country music that had #1 records, not only in the country field, but the pop field and the gospel field. And if I'm not mistaken, he had all 3 at the same time. I'm not sure exactly when that was, but somebody told me that. There were 3 great things about the Ozark Jubilee. One, to most of us who were there, it came early in most of our careers, and it was very important to have that network exposure. Number 2, everybody that spent much time on the Ozark Jubilee had to learn to do it right the first time. It didn't go to tape and rewind if you made a mistake. If you made a mistake, it went out over the network that way. So we had to learn to do it right the first time. And the third thing was the thing that Bobby mentioned. It was a great training ground to watch one of the greatest vocal stylists of all time, Mr. Red Foley. And I might add, now Bobby's too modest to mention this, but Bobby was just a kid when he came to the Ozark Jubilee. He had his own TV show in Florida, and he was picked by Red to come up and work with him, and Bobby was the second in command on that show. When Red had to be gone, Bobby was the man that took that show over, and he really did a great job.
I also worked at the Jubilee with Foley. He asked me to sing with him one night. He recorded with Kitty Wells. One by one we broke each vow we made. I said, Daddy Red, I can't sing in that key. Oh, yeah, sweetheart, you can do it. I said, I can't sing as high as Kitty Wells. He insisted I sang that song with him. And I got through it, but right at the end, my voice broke, and I was so embarrassed. I just put my head on his shoulder, and he patted me, and he said, don't worry about it, sweetheart. It just lets them know that you're human. And I never forgot that.
Joe, I think...
Will somebody tell a Fair and Young story so I can get my sense of humor back?
No, I want to add a P.S. to the story about Red going in the Hall of Fame, because I was there that night. Y'all remember when Ernest Tubb and Red Foley kind of had like a little rivalry going, kind of like, who was it, Bing Crosby and Bob Hope and some of the, different, and they recorded some songs together. I remember they did the one called Don't Be Ashamed of Your Age, where they put each other down. And they were friends, but to the public in some ways they were kind of rivals and everything. One of the most touching scenes that I have ever seen in my life was the night that they called Red Foley's name as the newest member of the Hall of Fame. The first person out of his seat was Ernest Tubb. And Ernest went over to him, and he put a bear hug on him, and he said, welcome. And it was a beautiful, beautiful sight.
That's
When I started, oh, sorry.
I worked one of the last shows with Red at Fort Polk, Louisiana. And that was after my son had been down there. Jimmy, it was early in 68, earlier in 68. And I watched from the side. Of course, I'd already gone on and done my little bit and hoped I'd please the audience in some way. But all these soldiers had just come in off a big bivouac and everything, sitting out there in that field as far as you could see. I mean, just hundreds of them. And it was hot, and it was out in the open and everything. But I stood at the side of the stage, and I saw him go on stage and sit down on a stool with just his guitar. And those soldiers, I mean, that had, were yelling and everything, having a good time. They were so quiet. I had never seen anyone hold the audience in literally the palm of his hand. You could have literally heard a pin drop, not a whisper.
May I tell you something about that? About that? Red told me, I asked him one time whenever he was doing his hymns, I said, your hymns are the best part of what you do, in my opinion. I love to hear you sing hymns. Just told him that as a side note and as a fan whenever I was working with him. And he said, well, let me tell you a little secret about that. He said, every hymn I sing anywhere, on any show, on any television show, I sit there and I think of my mama and papa sitting on the couch in our living room, and I'm sitting in the chair across the room from them, and I sing those songs to them. He said, that's why you hear in my voice what you hear. He said, I'm singing to Mama and Papa.
And there was nobody in the world that could look in that TV camera and say, good night, Mama, good night, Papa, like Red Foley could. He was great. We need to get you a microphone, Charlie.
The big star that Bing Crosby was back then, Bing made a remark one time that Red Foley, he thought, had the greatest voice that he'd ever heard. And from Crosby, that's pretty big.
Yeah. Sure is. Margot, you've been yodeling for us, but other than that, you've been real quiet. We're kind of coming around this way, and I think it's your turn.
I haven't been quiet. I've been singing and doing my little thing here. I have a big mouth now. I had some #1 records in 1978 and I think Nora Wilson's going to be here, and he was my producer, and we found this song at the last minute, and it's called It Only Hurts for a Little While. So y'all join right in, please. Key of G, guys. It all, 3/4. It only hurts for a little while. That's what they tell me. That's what they say. It only hurts for a little while. Then all your heartaches will pass away. It's so easy to be smart with somebody else's heart, but I don't know how to start forgetting you. What can I do? It only hurts for a little while.
had the Big Pop record on that?
Oh, golly. I don't, who had the big hot? No, I had the country version. Okay.
It was Kitty Callan.
Kitty Callan?
Yeah.
Is that what it was? Yeah. Well, you do it beautifully. You had a good choir helping you out, too. You didn't say anything about your mic stand. Hit me an E chord over there, Lester. Get a little vamp going, just a little bit. No, I ain't gonna talk. No, just go right ahead. You can pick it up a little bit. This is for you, Box. There's a whole lot of people looking down their noses at me, 'cause I didn't come from a wealthy family, and that's the truth. There was 10 of us living in a 2-room shack on the banks of the river by the railroad track, and we kept chickens in a pen in the back, and everybody said we was po-pos. My daddy was a farmer, but all he ever raised was us. He dug a 40-foot well and hit 36 gallons of dust. The Salvation Army gave us clothes to wear. A man from the county came to cut our hair. We lived next door to a millionaire, but we wasn't nothing except po folks. We was po folks living in a rich folks world. We sure was a hungry bunch. If the wolf had ever come to our front door, he'd have had brought a picnic lunch. But we had something in our house money can't buy. Kept us warm in the winter and cool when the sun was high. For whenever we didn't have food enough and the howling winds would get pretty rough, we'd patch the cracks and we set the table with love. 'Cause that's what you do when you're po folks, and we wasn't nothing but po folks. My mama and my daddy was po folks. My brother and my sister was po folks. My dog and my cat was po folks. And even Boxcar Willie was po folks. Box, I used to sing that on the Opry, and whoever the announcer was on the show that night, on that particular segment, I would say, and even Grant Turner was po-folks, or even Ralph Emery was whoever. And the announcers used to fight to see who was going to be on, so I'd put their name in the end of the song.
Well, that's a great song. One of my favorites.
Well, you're kind. I just did it because of the fun you was having with me a while ago.
My dog and my cat. I'll start practicing that first.
Bobby Lord, it's great having you up here from Florida. We don't see near enough of you. I am so glad you came to share your stories and your songs and your memories.
It's been my pleasure. Been my pleasure.
You have got more funny stories probably than anybody in this business. Is there any you can tell that you haven't told? We all love Bobby Lord's
I must tell
stories.
a story. I have to tell a story. I was hoping he'd be here today, but he's not. He's going to be here a little later, I guess. But a story on Johnny Russell. Johnny is a great friend of mine, and back when I was recording, I was just before doing a recording session, and Johnny called me and said, "Hey, can I pitch you a couple of songs?" So he brought 3 songs over, and he played the tape, and I listened to them very carefully, of course. But I said at the end of the listening to them, Johnny, I just can't really see me doing any of these songs. He reached over and he got the tape, pulled it off the machine, said, "Well, I guess you're as big as you ever want to be."
I'd like for Bobby to tell about his story to Louisiana, on his trip to Louisiana. It's a classic.
I don't know whether we got time.
We'll take time.
I thought that maybe somebody today would, we talked a little bit about a song that I recorded, but, well, let me do the Louisiana thing. I guess I'll do that.
You're talking about the, first you were talking about the other version of Alligator Man, but go ahead and tell the story.
No, I can't do Alligator Man today. I forgot the words, but I went to a place called Cameron, Louisiana, and a fellow was supposed to meet me at a crossroads there at a certain place, and I said that I would meet him there. I met him there, and we had the station wagon and the band trailer and the whole band, and we were going to play a dance that night at 9 o'clock and a show in the afternoon. So I got out of the car and I walked over to this guy and I said, are you Pierre, or whoever his name was? And he said, yes. The second thing he told me was that he had never been whipped. I should have known right then to get in the car and go back to Nashville. But foolish me, I did not, and we set up and we did the show in the afternoon. That night, we came in at 9 o'clock. Well, we were set up at 9 o'clock, ready to go, and people started coming into the dance. There were, the place was full, but everybody who came in was already drunk. They came in drunk. And there was one guy that said, after every song, said, play something pretty, play rock and roll. And then another guy over here said, I'm drifting into deep water. After every song, they did this. And then I got up and I started to do my little bit, and I was going to do 40 minutes and let the band do 20 and 40 and 20 all night, you know. Well, when I got there to do the 20 minutes, every time I'd sing a song, this guy would say, play something pretty, play rock and roll. I'm drifting into deep water. Well, every third song, I would be halfway through the song and a guy would jump up in the back and say, we auction a cake! And so he would auction this cake. I'll stop right in the middle of everything, you know, and I got a little peeved at this, but I said, you know, it's only one night in my life. You know, I can give it up. So I started out singing one of my current records and wanting to finish it. And from the back of the room came the bishop of the parish and a drunk barber. The bishop came in, and he was the first one. He stepped on my foot, took the microphone away from me, and sung Jolie Blonde for 5 minutes.
But you had a request for it and didn't know it.
I left the stage then. I said, I'm just getting out of here. And so the woman behind the bar, who was the woman I was looking, or who had booked the show, says, come here. So I walk over, and she said, I want to tell you this right now, Hillbilly. We're not paying you to get drunk. We're paying you to sing. I said, I haven't had a drop. I don't drink. She said, I'm just telling you. And I said, well, I'm not going to get... She said, don't tell me that. Said, Jimmy Newman was here 3 months ago. He never left the stage.
I knew better not to.
The end of this story was we finally got through the night after a guy walks in with a chainsaw sprayer. I don't know whether you've ever known one of these or not, but they put kerosene in a sprayer device, and he cranks this baby up and walks around the room with it.
For mosquitoes.
Just fogging for mosquitoes. I couldn't see the audience. It was like we were on radio. You know? And somebody took a chair and knocked this guy through the screen door and out onto the grass. We finished the night, and I went out to the band trailer and I said, guys, did anybody lock this band trailer? And they said, no, we didn't lock it. I said, where's the key? And one of the guys gave me the key, and so I unlocked the door. I popped the door on this thing, and a 350-pound Poland China hog run all over me. He hit me like a linebacker. Put his feet on my chest. And that was my end of the end of the story in Cameron, Louisiana, except that we had a motel rented for that night, and I left town and went back to the next date. I said, no more Cameron for me. I've enjoyed all these Cajuns I can stand.
Did you get paid?
Yeah, we all want to know if you got paid.
Under duress. They said I wasn't as good as Jimmy Newman.
Did you sing Pie Peachy Pie Pie?
No, sir, I didn't dare.
Would you sing it now?
I'll try. Let's see.
One of the classic songs in the history of country music.
No, that's okay.
Written by Boudleaux and Felice Bryant, right?
Right. Well, Boudleaux and Felice Bryant, if you remember, wrote Wake Up Little Susie, Bye Bye Love, Hey Joe, All I Have to Do Is Dream, and several other Sleeping at the Foot of the Bed, and about 200 songs for him. And all of them were hits. But for me, he wrote Pie Peachy Pie Pie. If you think the title is something, wait till you hear what he did to the rest of the song. Pie, now you all don't have to play because you might cover up this lyric. Pie Peachy Pie Pie, please won't you be my Pie Peachy Pie Pie, baby. My, we could fly high if you could be my Pie Peachy Pie Pie, baby. Gee, you're a Lulu. Let's make the woo-woo. You drive me cuckoo, baby. Pie Peachy Pie Pie, please won't you be my Pie Peachy Pie Pie, baby.
Who wrote this? It needed a recitation in the middle.
There's one line you would be ashamed if you missed, because he really poured his heart into this one line when he wrote, let's take a quick trip, lip to lip. Don't that kind of get you right here where you live? Huh?
I'll never be ashamed of another song I wrote in my life.
Now, but Bobby, now wait a minute. There's another one that goes along with that. The Browns recorded some songs, and Boudleaux and Felice wrote one for us too. It may not be quite as bad as Pie Peachy Pie Pie, but it was. Itsy bitsy witsy me loves itsy witsy you.
It's getting close.
Kissy witsy itsy me, and I'll go kitschy coo.
Wait a minute, we might have found a jewel
Put
here.
your witsy arms around me, squeeze me half in two. Cause itsy witsy bitsy me loves itsy witsy you. Now, if you don't think that's...
Ooh, I think that was in there rivaling Pie Peachy Pie Pie.
Well, we all have songs that we're too embarrassed to sing. I'll never do it again.
What you gonna say, Sam?
I just want to ask Bobby, was when you turned Russell's songs down, was that before or after Pie Peachy Pie Pie?
That was after. I was paranoid. I thought all the songwriters were out to get me.
Y'all remember the great George Morgan classic called Put All Your Love in a Cookie Jar?
Or Roy Drusky's Three Blind Mice.
Yeah.
Thought you were going to say Peel Me a Nanner.
Oh, it's Bill
Hey, well,
Evans wrote.
you know who wrote Peel Me a Nanner?
Bill
Y'all know that one, don't you? Hit me an E chord over there. Yes, I wrote that. Huh? Come here.
How long did it take you to write that song?
Well, it took me 3 years, but that's another story. Y'all sing with me. Come on, go to the A. Peel me a nanner, toss me a peanut, I'll come swinging from a coconut tree. Peel me a nanner, toss me a peanut, you sure made a monkey out of me. That's another Pie Peachy Pie Pie. I say there's a verse somewhere.
There I was in all of my innocence.
Thank you. There I was in all of my innocence, loving you with all of my might. Listen to this rhyme. Come to find I didn't have any sense. You had a different darling every time. Peel me a nanner, toss me a pea. Pie Peachy Pie Pie. Yes, over again. Pie Peachy Pie Pie. You sure made a monkey out of me. That's enough. How about bad songs?
Bill, that's a hit at my house. My wife sings it all the time.
We've all got some of those songs.
What's
Believe
yours?
me.
What is yours?
A second. Hold this a second. Let me see if I can
Oh,
sing.
this is confession time, folks.
It's been 100 years since it's. He big matador, him so brave, to fight the bulls is all he craves. Matter than but matador say, me no ladies man.
Who wrote that? Who wrote that?
I'm gonna tell you.
What's yours, Dickie?
All right. We've all got one. What's yours, Tater?
I don't drive a Trans Am like old Bill Anderson does. I ain't city-fied like he is, and I don't wish that I was. But I built up a name for kissing girls, and they're all trying to find me. I can out-kiss Bill with one lip tied behind me.
Is that a real song? It is now, yeah. What, Bill?
Beans for dinner. Beans for breakfast time. Baked beans, stewed beans, fried beans, boiled beans. Beans all the time. Never forget a damn pork chop ham. Strange as it seems, but you bet your life that I get started eating beans.
All right, who else is going to confess? Yeah, we got the top 10. What have you got, Skeeter?
Since I don't play, I've never ever sang this song, and I'm never ever even told anybody I recorded it.
Are you going to do it now?
And the only thing, I don't think anybody ever heard it, but it's, if I had wheels, I'd be a motorboat and run all over you. Brun, brun, brun. I recorded that song, and I was so glad. I don't think anybody ever played it, but some of the fans that know me and love me the longest and the best, and Pete Drake, is when Pete had first came to town, started a publishing company, and the other side of the record was a hit. But I actually did that to help Pete Drake, and always hoped that nobody would hear it, and nobody did, and I've never confessed it till now. Brun, brun.
Who else? Confession time. What you, Stonewall?
I guess I was more careful than that.
I wrote one, and I don't know if this is a stupid little song when I first started writing, cause I want to do like the animals do like the animals do, hugging and a kissing they all love here in the zoo. I want to do like the animals do.
That's bubbling under the top 10, I know. Jimmy, Jimmy needs a microphone, folks.
Oh, yeah, forget about the microscope. I never recorded any of those shows that I can remember. Of course, I did some French ones that may be in that category. But I know about this one old boy that recorded. He was doing a record session, and he said, "Look, boys," he said, "this song is going to be," I said, "I already timed it. It's 2 minutes and 72 seconds long." Then when we get to the bridge, he said, "We're going to all migrate. Thank you too much."
I think Taylor topped them all with May the Bird of Paradise, didn't he, huh?
Well, that's a pretty good one. Yeah, that was one that worked. What did you think? Let me just ask, because I've never asked you this. What did you think the first time you heard that song? Give him a microphone there, somebody. Yeah.
There's a dead skunk in the middle of the road.
Yeah, I did that too. I don't know what I thought. Really, I didn't have time to think. But Hap Wilson, you know Hap Wilson? He brought me sleeping at the foot of the bed. So when he walked in the middle of the session, he said, "I got a song I think you'd like under my arm here." And we took a break, and I listened to it, Brady Martin and the guys, and said, "Yeah, we'll do that." He set the lyric up there, and I sang it down one time, and first take, we got May the Bird of Paradise Fly Up Your Nose.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I was running Central.
That's Johnny Carson's favorite song, wasn't it?
Well, he'd been kicking that phrase around for a long time, and
this guy here did the demo on it. Stan did. And I was in charge of Central Songs when Neil Merritt wrote that song. I came into town, and Happy Wilson, who worked for us, I said, "What do you got new?" And he played me that one. I said, "Well, you got to be kidding with that. What else you got?" You know. He said, "It's going to be a hit." And he said Jimmy Dickens is going to record it. And the night it was a hit and got a BMI award. Happy bulleted his way I said, I'm not going up there with you. He said, I don't want you to go up there with me. And he grabbed it and held it up in the air and said, I told you so. And he showed it to everybody.
We've all been brought some interesting songs in our lifetimes. I remember a guy came to me one time and said he wanted to sing me a song, and he sang, it was a beautiful melody, but I recognized it was exactly the tune to You Win Again, the old Hank Williams song. He had written new words to it, and he got through. He said, well, what do you think? And I said, well, that's pretty good, but that's the tune to You Win Again. And he said, I know it. And I said, you can't use that. He said, if it's good enough for old Hank, it's good enough for me. Johnny Russell joins us today, and we're glad to have you. We got on a little kick the last time about the worst songs that people have written and the worst songs that we've recorded. What's the worst one that you've ever come across?
Well, now, if we're going to get into that, we're going to be here a while. I got publishers that'll tell you all mine have been pretty bad. Well, I don't know, man. Actually, I thought all mine were pretty good.
Well, they don't have to be yours.
But I did have some people play me some things that were bad. But the funniest thing that ever happened like that was one time over at Jack Clement's house. He showed us a song that a guy had sent him. It was a tape wrapped around a twig, and I don't know how we were supposed to play it. Gee, that wasn't all that funny, was it? But it was. It just wrapped around the twig. And then one time I was somewhere, and a guy came in and said, I got a song I want you to record. And I said, well, I'll hear it. He said, no. I said, you ain't going to hear it. You're going to record it. If you hear it, you'll steal it. I said, well, how am I going to record it if I don't hear it? He said, well, you can hear it when you're recording it. And he wouldn't let me hear it, but he did finally tell me what the title of it was. You know, he said, My Blue Heaven was such a big song. He said, I've written this one, and he did sing the first line. He said, when whippoorwills call, and evening is night, baby was something other in my pink heaven. I said, well, you can't do that. He said, well, that ain't blue.
Give us a little bit of the baptism of Jesse Taylor.
I'll give you all of it.
Give
You know,
me a little bit of it.
well, somebody hit me a chord over there. Well, they baptized Jesse Taylor in Cedar Creek last Sunday. Jesus gained a soul and Satan lost a good right arm. They all cried hallelujah when Jesse's head went under, 'cause this time he went under for the Lord. From now on, Nancy Taylor proudly speak to neighbors and tell them how much Jesse took up with little Jim. Well, Jimmy's got him a daddy now, and Jesse's got a family, and Franklin County done got him a lot more, man. Well, they baptized Jesse Taylor in Cedar Creek last Sunday. Jesus gained a soul and Satan lost a good right arm. They all cried hallelujah when Jesse's head went under, 'cause this time he went under for the Lord. This time he went under for the Well, for this kind of money, that's all of it.
One of my favorite people in the world is with us for the first time, Melba Montgomery. I just love to hear you talk.
Oh, it's a pleasure being here, Bill. I've seen so many great friends of mine I haven't seen for so long, and it's so great to be here and see everyone.
What's the worst song you ever came across? Now, you're a great writer. You've written a lot of good songs. You've made a lot of good records. You ever come across a real bad one?
Yeah, but those we try to forget.
What was the one you were telling about you and George Jones did?
Oh, we did a little song called Party Picking one time, and we never did understand after we cut it why we did. But I don't remember much of it. It's something like, don't you start that party picking, what'd I do to be ashamed? You're the one that needs a licking, I'm the one that takes the blame.
Don't call us, we'll call you.
Righty.
Anybody here confess to writing that? Oh, Carlisle raised his hand. You didn't write that, did you?
No, I didn't write that. I had one that I wanted to tell you about, but we'll get to it.
No, go on.
But, you know, you remember String Bean, he was doing a show in Asheville, North Carolina. There was a bunch of us down there. And we got there, and there was a table on the stage, and this old boy had brought songs, and he just had them laying all over the table. And he had me looking, and I couldn't find anything really that suit me. So I went on in the room, and String was sitting over there, you know, and had that pipe in his hand, you know. And this old boy knocked on the door, and he come in and he said, String, I got a song here that I wrote especially for you. And String didn't say anything. He just, he just sat there and looked like had that pipe in his hand. And that old boy looked, and he turned around and walked. He'd take about 3 or 4 steps and turn around and look again and didn't believe what he'd seen. And he went out and String looked at me and said, Chief, it'll work every time.
If there's anybody in this room that's heard a lot of bad songs, it's probably Buddy Killen, who ran Tree Publishing Company for years. Somebody hand Buddy a mic. Buddy, what's the worst one they ever brought to you?
Well, I can't remember the worst one. Johnny was telling a funny story a while ago about them sending around a twig. I actually received one time in an envelope, just a regular envelope, and there was a note in there, and it had all been taken off of the reel, and the guy said, I can't afford a reel, so would you please listen to my tape, and I want you to send it back. And you know what? We actually put the tape on a reel and listened to it. It started off slow, but it tapered off.
I don't think everybody thinks they can write a song. I mean, everybody's gonna, at one time in their life, they're gonna write a song or try to write a song.
They've brought them all to me. I've heard them all.
Not all of them.
You got some, Billy?
No, but you know, most people think that when they write a song, it's like having a baby. Their baby is the prettiest thing that was ever born, and their song is the most beautiful song that's ever been born. And you can't hardly tell them that this is a bad song in front of their face. They'll get extremely mad and say, well, what do you know?
Like saying your kid is ugly.
Yeah.
Your kid is ugly.
No, I never had a baby.
Melba sure recorded some great songs. Could you do a little bit of that great Harlan Howard song called No Charge?
We'll try.
I hope so.
All right. Just give me a long Geo there, fella. My little boy came into the kitchen this evening while I was fixing supper, and he handed me a piece of paper he'd been writing on. And after wiping my hands on my apron, I read it, and this is what it said. For mowing the yard, $5. Making my own bed this week, $1. Going to the store, 50 cents. Watching little brother while you went shopping, 25 cents. For taking out the trash, $1. Getting a good report card, $5. Raking the leaves, $2. Total owed, $14.75. Well, I stood there looking at him, expecting, and 1,000 memories flashed through my mind. So I picked up the pen and turning the paper over, this is what I wrote. For the 9 months I carried you, growing inside me, no charge. For the nights I sat up with you, doctored you, prayed for you, no charge. For the time and the tears and the cost through the years. my love is no charge. For the nights filled with dread and the worry ahead, no charge. For advice and the knowledge and the cost of your college, no charge. For the toys, food and clothes, and for wiping your nose, there's no charge, son. When you had it all up, the full cost of my love is no charge. Well, when he finished reading, he had great big old tears in his eyes. And he looked up at me and he said, Mama, I sure do love you. Then he took the pen and in great big old letters he wrote, paid in full. When you had it all up, the full cost of my love is no charge. Thank you. Thank y'all.
Oh, my goosebumps have goosebumps.
I gotta go call my mama.
Hey, Bill, I want to tell this because I think this is very fascinating. I want y'all to know that Jan Howard said that to her son. That's where that song came from. That's true.
Is that right?
Yeah.
You inspired a lot of songs, didn't you?
I think so. Some were not as good as that one, though.
That'll make a glass eye cry.
I tell you what,
No,
that's
my
a
son,
beautiful song.
Jimmy came in the kitchen one day, and he said, I'll mow the yard for $1. I said, no, you'll mow the yard for nothing. Because I do this for you, I do that for you, and I don't charge for any of those.
And that's where Harlan got the idea to write that song?
Yep.
Wow. So how much of
Oh,
a
well.
percentage did you get of the song?
None whatsoever.
No charge, huh, Jan? Hey, Jan, no
I
charge.
think I'll send him a bill.
Talk about bad
That bill is not paid in full.
Wait a minute, what did you say about your pink suit today?
What about my pink suit?
Well, what'd you just tell me out in the hallway?
I said I would hit you with my purse if you talk about it.
That's not what you said. You said you look like a walking...
I'm a walking bottle of Pepto-Bismol. Tommy Collins told me that when he was writing for Mel Tillis in the company, that they gave him the back room where they sent all the squirrels. And he said one day this old boy come in there with a shopping bag full of songs. And he said, Tommy, he said, are you taking anything in the key of E today? And Tommy said, E was yesterday. And the old boy said, well, I'll be darned. That's my luck, a day late. And the old boy said, I see you've got a guitar sitting over there. Tom said, he said, you care if I pick it up? Tom said, well, no. Said, go ahead and pick it up. And he picked it up and sat down and he said, I started one last night, but I can't get it finished. Tom said, Tom said, how does it go? He said, well, it starts right there in G and goes to C, and I can't get any farther with it. Tom said, try D. He said, well, damn, that will work.
Said, what key do you sing in mostly?
Jimmy Dean, you've been pretty quiet, which is unusual for you. Surely you've got some experiences with some crazy songs.
Not only is he one the funniest people I ever know, but maybe my favorite ballad singer in the world. Brother Jimmy.
Everybody's.
You know, I was thinking, when I worked Vegas regularly, I came up with an idea, and I did a medley of songs that I had turned down. I did, and people loved it because everybody said, hell, he's dumb as I am.
You mean these were songs you had a chance to record?
Yeah,
and did?
yeah. And one of them I'll never forget. Tillis was up to my room and he played a bunch of his songs and none of them really hit me. And he said, "Well, it's all right, Chief. I got one more at the house, and I'm gonna go home and when I called you, I'm gonna play it for you over the phone. So if your phone rings and nobody answers, don't hang up. It's me." And he said, so he called me and he played this song, and I said, "Well, Mel, I don't know." I said, to me, it's just another country song, and to tell you the truth, it's a little morbid, and I don't think. He said, "Okay, you know, Mel." And the song I turned down was, "I want to go home. I want to go home."
Bobby Bear would like to thank you for that.
Yeah, I know. But I did a lot of them like that. I turned a bunch of them down, stupid.
Ones that became hits for other people?
Oh, yeah. You know, one time I was at Hank Williams' house, and he had, he had quite a few. And he was on the couch and had a pair of green boxer shorts on. Can you imagine them legs in green boxer shorts? He could have sued them legs for non-support, you know. But he said, "I just wrote another hit." And I said, "Hank, I don't doubt it," because that time he could have burped and sold 10 million records. He was so hot. But he sang me this song, and I listened to it, and as I was leaving, I said, "Well, this is one time, you son of a gun, that you missed a boat. There ain't nobody can write a hit song about a cigar store Indian falling in love with a mannequin in an antique store. You can't do that." And Kalijah's only hit about 17 times.
Well, one you didn't turn down was Big Bad John. Give us a little bit of John here.
Well, that one I wrote. They say
hard to turn down one you wrote.
Well, they say that necessity is the mother of invention, and when I first started coming to Nashville, you recorded 4 songs in a 3-hour session. Can you feature that, friend? That don't happen anymore, does it? But I had 3 sides, and I wrote Big Bad John in about an hour and a half on a plane coming to Nashville. Can you? I know you can't, Jimmy. It's all right. Just he sits over there and tries to figure out whether to scratch his watch or wind his butt. He don't know. I pick on him because I invited him to my house to a picking one time, and he got busy and couldn't show up. Y'all, we had a big vocal group when we recorded this, and we don't have them here.
Oh, yes, you do.
I don't know if I want this group. Don't you play guitar. Now, Jimmy, I'm telling you, don't play guitar until they get holes on both sides of that. Don't play it. I'll tell you what, we'll start with the chorus. Ready? Big John, Big John, Big John. Donna, I could take this bunch on the road with me. Dang. That was really good. Every morning at the mine, you could see him arrive. He stood 6'6" and weighed 245, kind of broad at the shoulder and narrow at the hip. And everybody knew you didn't give no lip to Big John. Here we go. Big John, Big John, Big Bad John. Whew! I'm telling you, that. We'll do the last one, you see. And this is where you break and give me this dramatic ending. You got it? Now, they never reopened that worthless pit. They just placed a marble stand in front of it. These few words are written on that stand. You break it kind of quicker. And I say here, I'm going to end this bill like I wrote it. And then they released it, and they said, you can't say that on a record. Now you can say anything. But I wrote it, at the bottom of this mine lies one hell of a man, Big John. Big John, Big John, Big Bad John. Oh, you were good. Thank you.
Big John Russell was singing. I just figured out something, Dean. What? I thought you named that boat after me.
You know, one of the biggest thrills I ever had, Coach Darrell Royals, a great friend of mine, and he said, you've got to go down to, what's the name of it? Abilene, I think. Not Abilene. Well, it was John Tyler High School, and he said they use your song as a fight song there. And I went down there, and I'm telling you, to hear 16-year-old kids doing a thing that I had written in 1961, Big Bad John, it just thrilled the daylights out of me. One of the nicest thing that ever happened. That's all. I won't bore you anymore, Bill, because you've got Sam Boring right there to talk to.
One day I was down on Jimmy's boat, and a friend of mine was down there, and he came over for dinner, and we were having dinner, but Donald was down in the galley. The crew was gone, because Jimmy had sent them out. One of them was having a birthday, so he'd sent them out, and the crew was gone. And so Donald was down the galley fixing dinner, and Jimmy and Chris, this friend of mine, and I were sitting up on the top deck up there. We got on the big tall stools. We got our feet propped up on the thing there, and they're having some Dom Perignon. I'm drinking a Diet Pepsi. and the Trump Tower is back over here. The sun is just going down. It's just beautiful. There's a nice breeze. I mean, it's just the greatest thing I'd ever had in my life. And I said, I wonder what the poor folks are doing. And Jimmy said, there's two of y'all sitting on my boat.
Jimmy Gately used to say that all the time. He'd say, what the poor folks are doing? Jimmy said they're playing rock and roll.
Now, I don't know what possessed me to say that. I do. Meanness is what.
Mac Wiseman, at one time you were out in California running the country division of Dot Records. And I know in those days you must have gotten some wonderful songs sent in out there.
Well, I can't remember any one particular. I really had my thinking cap on since you brought this subject up, but Johnny Russell came in. I don't remember what you brought, though, John.
Turn me down. Turn me down.
I really can't think of, there were some bad ones, but I can't think of any particular one.
Turn me down.
I came in too, Mac.
That may be a smart A&R man. Hey, Mac, tell us about the guy going through customs. Oh, in Ireland. Oh, yes. This
I got some more I want to pitch you, Mac. I came in out there in California. I'd like to pitch you some of the new things I'm writing. I got one called I Just Don't Look Good Naked Anymore. And if you don't like that one, I got one called I Gave Her the Ring and She Gave Me the Finger. And one called I Just, Doggone it, Girl, I Love You, Man.
Sounds like a concept album to me.
Any of those hit your fancy?
I think I could do those today, don't you?
Tater said he wanted you to tell a story about
Request
Ireland.
that again, Jim. We got to get out of this.
The guy going through customs in Ireland. Tell us about that.
Oh, yeah, the fellow with the banjo case was going through customs in Ireland, and the immigration officer said, I'm going to have to ask you to open that, if you will. He opened it. There was 2 machine guns in it. The officer said, oh, that's okay. I thought for a minute you had a banjo.
Well, now see, you can tell that because you're from the bluegrass
Bill, I got
world.
to tell one about Jeannie Seeley when the Grand Ladies was over and talking about going through customs. We wasn't in customs.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, we was at the Glasgow airport in Glasgow, Scotland. Seeley had to go to the bathroom. Well, you had to go through this revolving door to go to the bathroom. Seeley went to the bathroom and started to come back out. She got in that revolving door, and it wouldn't go the other way. And she got stuck. And all these bells started going off. This guy walked over, you can't go back through there. And Seeley said, well, we could in the United States. He said, you aren't in the United States. She said, I wish to heck I was. But I got a picture of it. I wouldn't take $1 million for it.
But the man, the security man, kept pointing up to this side and remembering, he says, can't you read? Can't you read? Jeannie says, I can read. I just can't get out.
It was all glass, you know, the doors were, but he kept saying to me, you've got it stuck, you know, and I'm saying, yes, sir, I understand that. I didn't mean to. Well, you've stuck it. And I said, I know, you know, and I'm real sorry about that. And he said, well, it is stuck. I said, would you unstuck the SOB?
She threatened to kill me because of the pictures.
It's not over yet.
I'd like to know where's this woman's restroom that's surrounded by glass. I'd like to go there.
It's really a Big John.
You know, one of the things I love about these country greats? Their humor, their love of life, and their quick wit. They've had the same problems traveling you've had. They've shared the same experiences you've shared with your friends. And through it all, they've kept their